Okay, so starting seeds. So the first thing I want to say about starting seeds is do not be intimidated. There's so many videos online and tutorials, and I find that a lot of times things are made to be or made to sound a little more complex than they actually are. The main concept of starting seeds is you just want to get the seeds wet so that they can absorb enough water and sprout. You don't want them to be soggy and soaked at all times. That's really all there is to it. As far as what medium to use, the depth and all that stuff, it's really not a big deal. Just think of it as seeds, whatever size they are, that's about how much they want to be covered. So like if you have large seeds like beans, those should go a little bit deeper. And if you're planting smaller seeds like tomatoes, peppers, they don't really need to go that deep. The smaller the seed, the less you want to cover them. But as long as you're just moistening the seeds and keeping them wet in whatever medium, you just go ahead and try it out. Go ahead and start it. It's not going to, the worst thing that could happen if you don't use optimum conditions and optimum methods is you won't get as much germination, but you will get germination. You will get some that grow. And it's more important to start and kind of learn from doing it, right? So what I'm using here is just my all-purpose mix that I make. I just basically use less compost in it. It's a little less compost. It's a little bit more perlite to give it a little more aeration. That's because seeds do like to be a little bit more. They don't want to stay soggy, so I feel like that helps with that. But again, I've used all kinds of things, anything from any bag. Everything will sprout. So, alright, so this is just that mix. I like these. I just bought these actually. This is the first time I use them. They're a slightly bigger size. I feel like that's a good size to start seeds in. But you can use anything. I've used regular 6-packs. You can use little pots. This is just fluffy soil. I put it in. It's not pressed down at all, right? So I'm just gonna press it down just a little bit, and this is the depth that all the seeds are gonna be at. So I finished pressing it down. And yeah, so all I'm gonna do now is spread the seeds. Some super hot peppers. And so all I'm doing is I'm gonna try as evenly as possible to spread them around. Nothing says you have to do it this way. You could, with fresh seeds like this, you could literally just put the seed in the pot that you want it to grow in. When you do that, you usually want to plant at least two per cell, just so that you don't, just so that in case one doesn't sprout, you have a backup. That's it. You'll find that with brassica seeds, like cabbage, broccoli, radish, all those types of seeds, they usually are very quick to germinate, and they usually always germinate. They are they're one of the easiest seeds to germinate. Let's put it that way. And these seeds are quite old, so this is a great it's a great way to plant when you have old seeds. Because what this allows you to do is to basically root out the seeds that won't sprout, that are dead, not viable, without having to waste, a pot or a cell for them. So by doing it this way, you basically just get to only transplant the plants that sprouted. I cover all my seeds with vermiculite. Because these are so small, I'm going to do it now just because I don't want any chance of them blowing away. The reason I use vermiculite is, for one, it holds moisture. You don't have to use vermiculite. You can use anything. You can just use the same soil mix that you use to plant in. But the reason I do it is because it holds moisture, and so it makes it a little easier to prevent the seeds from staying soggy by not overwatering, yet maintaining the very top where the seeds are moist, to maintain the seeds fully hydrated. So a lot of times you can get away with just spraying the tops, you know. I bottom water, which is best thing to do because it avoids disturbing anything. But yeah, so that is all I'm gonna do on those. The other thing that vermiculite is really good at doing is reducing the proliferation of fungus gnats. So if you've already started seeds, you have indoor potting plants, you may have already encountered this, but fungus gnats are little insects that basically they lay eggs on the surface of the soil, usually on damp soil. It happens a lot indoors. And the larvae eat organic matter and sometimes also young roots, and so seedlings are very susceptible to that because the roots are so small. So a layer of vermiculite will usually prevent the fungus gnats from laying eggs, supposedly, but they still do to some extent, but it's greatly reduced. But to be honest, the main way to control that, if you do a lot of seed starting, you will definitely get fungus gnats at some point or another. You could sterilize your soil, but I don't like doing that because I feel like that just kills the compost, like all the good stuff that's in the soil. It gets rid of it. I mean, for the purpose of starting seedlings, it's not that big a deal. You could sterilize it. Actually, it's not as impactful because you're just starting the seeds and then you're going to transfer them quickly. But it's just more effort than I could be bothered to to deal with. Like, it's just, I need things to be a little less effort than that. Anyway, the way I do it works. But like I said, there's no don't think about the fact that there's all this stuff you gotta take into account for starting seeds. Just start some seeds. Just put some seeds on. Get a little pot. Put some seeds. Sprinkle some seeds in there, and just get them wet and put them on top of your refrigerator or something, or in a nice sunny window, and you'll see that they'll sprout. And then transplant them. And don't think about how am I gonna transplant them. Like, what's the proper technique I'm gonna break through? Just do it. Just like do it.
Okay. Do it. Mm-hmm. Do it.
It's not. And you'll be pleasantly surprised. Plants are forgiving, and growing food is not difficult. It's just, if you get into it, it's a process, but it's very enjoyable. On most United States homes and backyards, most families could be growing all of their vegetables, if you think about it. We waste so much space with lawn, it's ridiculous. Years ago, when I first started getting into this, however many years ago, over a decade ago, it just boggled the mind. I started looking at every piece of space in our communities, like lawns, parks. We need parks and all that, but there's so much like unnecessary grass planted everywhere, and it's just wasting water and eroding soil because it gets fertilized and chemicals are applied and all that. And honestly, every time I drive by some business or something where there's like all this grass, for the business, or all this landscape, I'm thinking, how many tomatoes could I fit in here? I could probably fit, 200 plants in here and feed like a whole community with tomatoes for a whole summer. And it's just grass and wasted water instead. So, all right, so they're all done. I covered them. Tomatoes and peppers, you can cover them nice and thick. They have plenty of stored energy in the seed to sprout and make it through. But again, like herbs, things like that, you want to have a much thinner layer. So the next step is adding water, and at this step I like to always bottom water, and that's because I wouldn't dream of disturbing any part of this right now. And I'm gonna add about maybe half an inch of water. It's because the soil I'm using is already, wet. It's already moist. Has moist, it's not completely dry. So I think that's about it. I just want it to absorb, and you'll see. So this vermiculite I just grabbed from outside was a little damp because it's been raining outside and some of it got in the bag. But this one, you'll see it's a different color right here. It's kind of light in color because this is completely dry. So this will turn that color soon once the water is absorbed, and that's that tells you it's done. Every time you bottom water, you're always trying to put enough water there so that just enough so that it is wicked up completely and the bottom remains wet. You don't want the cells or pots or whatever to sit in sogginess, because that'll make the whole thing soggy. So, or in wet in a layer of water, it'll make everything soggy. So you just want it to be just enough for it to be completely absorbed. This can basically, and now once you're done, you can basically leave this as is for a few days. You could put it on top of a refrigerator somewhere a little warm, but you don't need to put it under grow lights just yet. But after about, I guess if you're looking at it like a hawk, like you probably will be, because you're probably excited about having started seeds and you're looking at these every day to see if you see anything peeking up. As soon as you see something, or the day before you expect to see something, you should put it under lights, because you don't want your seeds to come up and then have no light on top of them, because what that will cause, it will cause them to grow too tall and lanky, and that's not good. You're setting up the plants for failure. You can still recover most of the plants. Tomatoes, peppers are okay, but some of the other plants, it's hard. Like lettuce, you can't really recover that lankiness because they won't grow roots along the elongated stem, right? Plants like tomatoes and peppers or basil will do that, but not some of these other plants. I like to reuse these because I don't want to waste them. There's no reason to throw these away after the first use. They last several uses. Huh?
We have a lot of salad.
Oh yeah, we can eat salad today, sure. And cabbage, and we have some mustard greens. All right, so week or two later, this is what we got. So these are a little bit elongated, but it's not a big deal. These ones more than I'd like, but should still be okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think the light that I just built, there's something wrong. Maybe the wavelength's not good enough. They tend to grow a bit longer than I expect. But there's a couple of ways you could do it. You could either empty out the whole thing, sort of like this, or you can use a stick or something to try to dig up just the plants that you want. Sort of like this. There we go. Then the point is, once you've dug the plant up, stick it in nice and deep. There, we've gotten rid of the lankiness. So yeah, so if you time it right to where they're just the right at the right growth stage, they haven't overgrown, then they pretty much fall apart because the roots haven't spread to a point where they have intertwined with each other, but they've still established a pretty decent root. So I'm gonna start with lettuce. These are 4 varieties. Unfortunately, some of the labels blew off because of the storm. Like everything was going crazy in this greenhouse, but I'll be able to tell them apart when they grow. I know this is the red one because I can already see the red coming, and I can tell that this is the Marvel of 4 Seasons because of the different texture of the leaf. The other 2 are either slowboat or iceberg. I'll be able to tell them apart once they start growing. And then this is a Paris Island, so there's like five varieties here. This you can just kind of go in like this with a little stick or pencil and start lifting the plants. And in retrospect, this is probably a bit crowded, just because you know, if you accidentally get seeds that blend with the other side, you don't want them to get mixed up. But as long as I try to do varieties that I can easily tell apart, and these I've grown so many times I can tell them apart. So this is, I'm just giving it just a small, so this is the Lola Rosa. And because I didn't press the soil down too firmly, these will go in very easy. So once I put it there, I'll just push it further all the way in and then kind of tuck it in like that. Just kind of lifting and trying not to disturb the roots too much. But even if they break slightly, it's not a big deal, as long as you don't completely destroy the roots. And the deeper you go, the better, just so that you make the plants a little bit more sturdy. And then I just usually set it on a shelf. That's not full sun, just at least for a couple of days till the roots and the plants settle in, just so they don't dry out as fast. I think every single seed sprouted. I usually just sprinkle a few, but I think I sprinkled more than I need. Let's split some of these. Of course, you can start these tomatoes already in these cells, but for me it gets really difficult space wise. You know, of course the most efficient way would be to start it in the pot or cell that it's going to live in until it's planted, but yeah, this just makes it way easier to start a lot of plants indoors early. Usually you want to do your best to avoid having plants or seedlings get so lanky, so tall. You know, it's not good. You always want it to be nice and sturdy, but of all the plants that it's not a big deal for that to happen to, tomatoes is the one, because again, once you bury that stem, roots will grow all along that stem, so you actually increase the root mass by doing this. Definitely not hurting the plant. Bottom water these for now, and then once they get a little bit sturdier, a bit stronger, then I will do some top watering.